Your Honor, if it is all right, for the majority of this statement, I would like to address the defendant directly. I was in a gurney in a hallway. I had dried blood and bandages on the backs of my hands and elbow. I thought maybe I had fallen. I was very calm. A deputy explained that I had been assaulted. I still remained calm, assured that he was speaking to the wrong person. When I was finally allowed to use the restroom, I pulled down the hospital pants they had given me, went to pull down my underwear,
I told him to stop.
and felt nothing.
He thought I was joking.
On my second day, before classes had begun,
first day of my
I was raped by another freshman.
There was no question about consent. I said no, and he didn't care.
You don't know me, but you've been inside me.
The recent rise of awareness for sexual assault issues like the #MeToo movement has given many people hope that sexual violence in America is on the decline. This is far from the truth. The epidemic of sexual assault does not exist only in Hollywood. It runs rampant on college campuses across our country for a variety of reasons.
Entering college in general, you get this sort of freedom and now you're your own person, there's no one telling you what to do anymore. And when you mix that with the rules that govern fraternities and the rules that govern sororities and their differences, I think that is a really, really toxic mix if we don't educate on what that mix could become.
The specific culture surrounding fraternities and sororities ripples throughout all schools in our nation, especially through schools of high prestige. Leland Stanford Junior University and the University of California, Berkeley are two of the most reputable colleges not only locally, but globally. They are also the sites of some of the most heinous and high-profile sexual assault cases in the world. The Brock Turner case, involving the sexual violence and attempted rape of anonymous victim Emily Doe, caused national outrage because of the short sentence that the defendant received. However, the public was only aware of this case because it was criminally investigated due to the fact that the victim was not a student at Stanford University. The vast majority of campus sexual assaults don't gain the same national attention and are easily forgotten. This vicious cycle is apparent in cases such as those at Vanderbilt, Baylor, Columbia, and UC Berkeley.
My name is Sophie Krasik, and when I was a first-year student in college at the University of California, I was sexually assaulted by another student. He was actually a serial perpetrator who was going after young women in the organization we were a part of. 4 of us eventually reported him to the university, but they didn't investigate it, and he ended up graduating early from the university. I was there to learn, but instead I started hearing more and more stories from survivors that sounded exactly like mine. And it turned out that what I thought was abnormal was actually happening every day.
I think it's more of a taboo topic that people feel very uncomfortable talking about.
Sexual violence isn't notable anymore. It's so normalized and we expect it on college campuses that we don't feel the need to report anymore. So the only cases that we really hear of are those big name cases like Brock Turner, when really those things happen all the time, constantly on all college campuses.
The real change for sexual assault on campuses is coming from student guidance and not administrative overview.
I see the school's perspective in that this is a really, really hard area to get right. And so they're trying to get it as right as they can with the perspective they have, which is not always our perspective.
I don't think the university is doing enough to stop the issues from happening. And I think that they're taking steps towards what they should be doing.
What can we do better to help prevent these things? And I think that's a really great question for universities to keep asking themselves.
The fault isn't entirely on the university, however. Many university officials say they would like harder stances on sexual assault and better resources for victims, but something is preventing them. Universities follow a set of guidelines dictating how to adjudicate campus sexual misconduct. Betsy DeVos, our Secretary of Education, has put forward a proposed set of new guidelines that aim to change the way schools look at and regulate sexual assault reports.
So some of the changes that DeVos has proposed include changes to the standard of evidence we're using, allowing both parties to cross-examine each other.
But the scope of the school's responsibility is a lot more limited. Like if there's an assault that happens between 2 students and but it's unrelated to the school, like where it happens and how it happens, then the school has no place and actually does not have the right to adjudicate it.
This includes frats and other off-campus housing. Many survivor advocacy groups are taking a stand against DeVos's new guidelines.
We need to come out even more because we are going to resist and we are going to fight for our schools and our students and our Constitution and our democracy.
And I think that the new guidelines seem like they're more for the university to be able to prevent lawsuits instead of how they can make their university or each university more preventative focused or trauma informed.
A campaign known as #DearBetsy that enables victims to share their stories and voice their opinions regarding the proposed guidelines has begun in their wake. Although DeVos's supporters claim the new guidelines will serve to protect falsely accused students by bringing a higher standard of evidence, it is clear that the proposed Title IX reforms would counteract past efforts to support survivors by allowing schools to ignore instances of sexual assault that occur between students off campus grounds, and by getting rid of the anonymity option for survivors. In order for real change to occur, students, administrations, and the nation as a whole need to work together to prevent us from moving in the opposite direction, a task that will become increasingly difficult if DeVos's guidelines pass.
Betsy, be on the right side of history, stand with survivors of sexual violence, and uphold the protections of Title IX.